U.S. tightening shipments to chip factories in China will slow Beijing's advances, analysts say. News analysis. Washington is closing a loophole that let a handful of foreign-owned chipmakers ship most U.S.-origin tools, software, and technology into their China fabrication plants without licenses. A fast-track privilege no U.S.-owned fab ever had. Analysts say the move could slow advancement in Chinese fabs and further inflame the U.S.-China tech rivalry. As Beijing applies case-by-case screening over rare earth exports, they say Washington will now apply the same logic to chip tools bound for China. The Commerce Department's Bureau of Industry and Security announced on August 29 that it will terminate the validated end-user program after a 120-day transition, with full effect on December 31. The decision puts every future shipment under a license, tightening U.S. control over what tools and technologies reach Chinese production lines. Under the change, former VU participants must obtain licenses for every shipment of U.S. origin equipment and technology to their China fabs. BIS says it will prioritize approvals needed to keep existing lines running, but is unlikely to approve applications tied to capacity expansion or technology upgrades in China. The rules cover Taiwan's semiconductor manufacturing company's Nanjing plant, as well as Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix facilities in China. The Trump administration is committed to closing export control loopholes, particularly those that put U.S. companies at a competitive disadvantage. Commerce Department official Jeffrey Kessler said in a statement on August 29. Taiwanese economist and TV commentator Edward Huang called it a reset of the rules. Are being forced off a highway and onto a narrow dirt path, he told the Epoch Times on September 4. He said Washington's target remains cutting China off from sub-14 nanometer manufacturing, not the absolute cutting edge, but strategically important. In chips, smaller process nodes mean higher performance and lower power use, which are critical for advanced computing and AI. China can reliably produce mature node chips around 14 nanometers and above. Cutting-edge 7 nanometers and below remain out of reach. Huang said the new licensing regime aims to preserve that gap by restricting the tools and know-how required to move beyond mature nodes. Routing around the rules will be difficult, he added, because core suppliers of semiconductor components are highly concentrated in the U.S. Many products that look like they come from other countries still incorporate U.S. technology. He also framed the move as counter-leverage against Beijing's weaponization of rare earth exports. Su Tsung-chi, a veteran procurement chief who worked at Tsinghua Unigroup subsidiaries and TSMC, previously told the Epoch Times that advanced semiconductors remain a major choke point the United States holds over China. Advanced chipmaking, he noted, depends not only on equipment but on a culture of rigorous research, steady innovation, and disciplined execution. China's industry has long leaned on reverse engineering and adoption rather than fundamental breakthroughs, an approach that limits the homegrown innovation needed at the leading edge, he added. Impact on TSMC, Samsung, and SK Hynix. For TSMC's fab in China, the hit is real but contained, according to Sun Quexiong, professor of international affairs and business at Taiwan's Nanhua University. After the VU revocation, every U.S.-controlled tool, part, and chemical at TSMC's Nanjing plant will require separate export approval, he told the Epoch Times. This could slow equipment maintenance, upgrades, and expansion significantly, while raising overall supply chain costs. The Nanjing fab mainly produces at 16/12 nm and 28/22 nm nodes. Not the most advanced, but essential for auto chips, telecom components, and consumer system-on-chips, with solid commercial demand, Sun said. Losing VU will squeeze expansion timing, upgrade speed, and operational predictability, he added. TSMC said it had received notice of the rules, is assessing the impact, and will work closely with the U.S. government to keep operations stable. For now, the Nanjing site is the only TSMC facility in China subject to BIS controls and accounts for about 3% of TSMC's global capacity, making the direct impact relatively limited, Taiwan's Minister of Economic Affairs said on September 3. The MOEA said that TSMC's exposure is small compared with Samsung, whose China capacity is about 20% of its global total, and SK Hynix, at nearly 40%. It added blanket revocation across the three global giants, showing that this is not a targeted strike on any one firm, but a broader tightening of U.S. controls. In an earlier statement, SK Hynix told the Epoch Times that it would maintain close communication with both the South Korean and U.S. governments and take necessary measures to minimize the impact on its business. Samsung did not respond to a request for comment by publication time. Possible next moves. Huang linked the VU decision to the upcoming Section 232 investigation into semiconductors. Section 232 under the Trade Expansion Act of 1962 authorizes the U.S. president to investigate whether specific imports threaten national security. The semiconductor probe launched in April 2025, with a report due within 270 days. It's a preemptive move, Huang said. A 232 probe could lead to tariffs, with differentiated rates by country and product. He suggested the Trump administration may reprise its NVIDIA approach, impose a 15 to 20% security fee on chips going to China, then use it as a bargaining chip in broader U.S.-China negotiations. The Trump administration on August 11th said it would allow NVIDIA to sell its N20 chip and AMD to sell the MI308 chip into China, but would levy a significant security fee of around 15% to 20% on revenue from those sales. From the factory floor, the risk is more immediate, Sun said. If case-by-case licensing slides into routine denials, he said, companies may struggle to obtain spare parts for critical maintenance, undermining yields and delivery reliability. When compliance costs outweigh the benefits of staying, Sun said, rational withdrawal will become the only choice. He added that such exits may not be what Washington wants. The U.S. aim appears to be freezing China's leading-edge progress while keeping some commercial engagement that maintains Chinese reliance on foreign chipmakers. Li Jing and Luo Ye contributed to this report.